So we always save our recordings to a YouTube channel, so you're always able to go back and look at all of the presentations. Well, hi, I'm Chris Franklin. I want to welcome you back to the ASA K through 12 chats. We are really excited today to have a special presentation from Jennifer Sorbin. Jennifer is with SAS in Cary, North Carolina, and she's here today to talk to us about an open source software that SAS has developed called DataFly. And it has been specifically developed to be used at the school level, K through 12. I had the really good fortune to meet Jennifer earlier this year as I was helping a colleague in South Africa plan professional development workshops for teachers, for school level teachers in South Africa. And SAS was one of the sponsors of the workshops. And we integrated SAS DataFly into the workshops. So I was able to actually get to see all of the really positives of this software. And it's just very exciting. And I can already tell you that the teachers that experienced SAS DataFly in South Africa, I think are now using it in their classrooms. So with that in mind, what I'd like to do is go ahead and turn it over to Jennifer. She's going to give you a presentation today showing you the different features of SAS DataFly, how easy it is to access. And with that, Jennifer, it is now your turn.
Okay, great. Thank you, Chris. Hi, everyone. As Chris mentioned, my name is Jennifer Saborin. And I'm from SAS, from the K-12 Education Initiatives team. So if you're familiar with SAS, or if you're not familiar, it's a statistical platform. Is really what the bulk of SAS does, is provide analytics tools for top companies and researchers around the world. But our division is focused on the philanthropic side. So how can we reach K-12 students and build skills in the areas of analytics, statistics, computer science, really these core skills that are at the heart of what SAS cares about and what SAS values and the skills that it thinks are going to help students be successful. So that's the team that I am a part of. I have my background is in AI and data mining. And so I serve as kind of a product and program manager for a lot of our K-12 education resources to make sure that they align in an educational, from an educational perspective, but that they also align for the skills that students will need to be successful in those spaces. With that being said, I would love to get to know the audience members who is here, and we're going to use SAS DataFly to do that. So if you could go to the link that you see on my screen, my colleague Lee Ellen is also going to put the link in the chat. It'll take you to a homepage where you can enter in a code, and the code is chat. And I'm going to toggle over to the DataFly so we can see. Once you enter the code, you should see 2 questions, just asking what grade level you teach, if you are in fact an educator, and how confident you are with data. We have got a lot of high school teachers. A little bit of higher ed. Okay.
Where's the code again? I'm on a phone and I can't find the screen with the code.
It's chat, C-H-A-T.
Oh.
Okay, great. So I think that's about everybody who's in the chat. It says about 14, and so that's what we've got here. And it looks like the vast majority of you guys are in high school, grades 9 to 12, feeling comfortable, very confident with data. We've got some middle school and higher ed across the board, and a few non-educators. I'm going to guess that those are some of my colleagues from SAS who are helping us out today. So that's great. I'm glad to see you guys all here, and now you've had an opportunity to kind of see Datafly firsthand. It's a real-time polling and data visualization tool that's designed for the classroom. And I'm going to be kind of going over this tool and providing a demo and some lesson ideas as well. So I'll head back to the presentation. Okay, so as I mentioned, Datafly is designed for the classroom. So when SAS decided to really focus its education philanthropy efforts in the space of statistics and analytics, we started by talking to teachers and asking what kind of tools are out there that they're using, what's frustrating about those tools, what do they wish that they could do differently and better. And what we heard over and over again was my students do best when they understand the data, when they're able to help create the data. And I just need a quick tool for being able to collect that data from my students and visualize it. Like I can do a Google form and collect data, but then to get it the way I want it to look can be challenging. Or I can make really cool visualizations in this tool, but finding data sets that are interesting to students is challenging. And so the idea behind Datafly is to quickly collect data from students. So hopefully student data that students understand the context behind, are really driven to understand, collect it quickly and easily in real time, and have visualizations that meet the goals of the educator. So there's a variety of tools and supports in the program that are really designed with educators in mind. As you saw, students join using a lobby code, and they're brought to an interactive session where they're working together to input data and build the visualization. I've got a quick video that will show a little bit more of it in practice before I dive into a demo.
Datafly is a powerful tool designed to engage students with data. Using Datafly, teachers can quickly create short polls that will populate charts and graphs with student responses on the fly. Students answer questions, whether they are together in person or virtually, and see their responses create beautiful, interactive data visualizations in real time. By putting students at the heart of the data, Datafly drives better understanding of what the data represents and increases interest in uncovering insights. Intelligent instructional tools give educators further power to help students develop skills and thrive in today's data-driven world. Let's learn about data on the fly.
Don't need to replay that. There we go. So as you saw, Datafly can be used in person or virtually. That was one thing that I didn't cover. We did kind of design and build this last year. And so having a tool that teachers could use regardless of their classroom setup was a big focus as well. We're seeing that that's not as important this academic year as schools have returned to in-person, but it is worth noting that students can join, as you all did, from any location. So before I get into the demo of Datafly, there's really two main kind of pieces of terminology that I want to go over that kind of will help understand the way Datafly is set up. The first is a template. So a template is, it consists of 1 to 2 poll questions and the details about what the final visualization is going to look like. So it could be, a scatter plot of, height and shoe size. That would be the idea behind a template. And so teachers create these templates in advance. So if you've got your, planning period on Thursday afternoons, say, this is when you might create your template, and you'll save it and come back to it later with a shared link. You could also launch a live session at that same time, but most people are building these in advance of when they're actually wanting to use them. And these saved templates are, they're persistent, so they'll last indefinitely. They can be shared among your, your teacher teams, your wider PLNs, if you've got educators anywhere that you want to say, hey, I built this cool lesson template, take a look, you can share it broadly using that one shared link. So that's a template. It's the kind of structure behind a lesson or behind a Datafly activity. And then we have a live session. So a live session is what you guys just joined. It's the blank visualization that's going to build as students enter their data. So students join the live session using the code like you did, or you can share a join link. That's another way that students can access it. The live sessions last only as long as the host, so usually that's the educator, has their browser open. So it is a short moment in time when we're collecting data. So I might have created my template during my Thursday afternoon planning period, and then Monday morning, I'm using it with my students. I can open up a session for my first period. If I close it, I can open a new session for my second period, close it, so on. Or I could open up one session first period, leave that browser open all day and collect data from new groups, my new class periods of students, and just add it on as the day progresses. So it collects data for as long as it's open. And any number of sessions can be launched from a single template as well. So if you have, worked with, the other 9th grade teachers in your planning period, and you all decide you're going to use the same shoe size and height scatter plot, you can all open that template, but launch your own live sessions, and those will be unique live sessions, and the data will not be shared in between them. So those are kind of the two main things to kind of keep in mind as I go through the demo. We've got the template and the live session. All right. So I'll get started with a demo of Datafly. So it all starts from this Datafly homepage. This is the same page where you entered your code to join, but as an educator, you can click create a template to get started on a template. The first option is to pick your chart type. This was based on feedback from educators that this is really how they tend to think about lessons first, is what kind of visualization am I going to have? What are the kind of visualizations that I'm aiming to teach at any particular time? So that was the reasoning behind this. So I might start with a bar chart. And because I've selected the bar chart, right now I'm limited to categorical data. And so I might say, let's do a checkbox so you can check more than one option of what kind of pets do you have at home? So this is where I'm entering the details of the poll question that will populate the visualization. So add some answer options: dog, cat, fish, gerbil, reptile, and other. I'm also going to label my data. So always want to give a label to every piece of data that's coming in. So this will be types of pets. And now if I scroll down, you can see I've already got a kind of preview of what this visualization will look like. It gets really interesting when you get into more complicated visualization types. So I might make this a stacked bar chart by adding another question of, do you have a yard? Yes or no. And so this one is a multiple choice where they have to select just one option. And I'll label it yard. So now you can see I've got, again, this preview of what the visualization will look like. I can see that right now I've got a grouped bar chart, and I can look through these options to see if I want it maybe to be stacked instead. I could flip my bar chart and say that I want it to be a horizontal bar chart. So lots of different options here for how you want the data to appear when you collect it from students. So this is really designed to make sure that the visualization that you're building in real time when you get to class with your students looks the way that you want it to do. It's going to meet the goals that you have for that class period. So I'm going to add a title, pets by yard. That doesn't make any sense, but that's what I'm going to title it. And my next step is to save my template. So this is my template. What I just built is the template. It's the questions and the visualization details. And so now I can just do what I need to do to save that template to access it later. So right now it's got a default title of, bar chart with the chart title, pets by yard, but maybe I want to call this, my second period lesson, and I'll provide a description of, this is a lesson on grouped bar charts. Are the pets students have different if they have a yard? And so once you add that information, that'll be saved along with the template, so that if you have this this link, this saved link, this is how you'll access this template, and this is how you'll share this template as well. So I can show you how that will look. It's essentially just the a summary of the information that was just provided. You can also add an email to send it out to yourself, if that's the best way for you to remember it, or to send it out to other teachers in your team, or you can copy this email link or this link and post it to Twitter if you want to. However you want to keep the link yourself or share it, all of those options are available. But it's important to note that there are no accounts in Datafly. So if you leave this page and you really wanted that link and you forgot to save it, unfortunately that link is gone. So we made the decision for now to have no accounts, so that we can avoid any kind of issues around collecting data and student data and privacy issues. So hopefully it's easier for schools to sign off on using this in the classroom because none of the data is saved. If we get feedback that teachers really need accounts, that this saving the link is not working as an instructional tool, then we might revisit that. But right now, if you want to be able to launch these again later, you need to hold on to this link and keep it in a place where you'll remember it. Just add it to your lesson plan or wherever you're keeping track of the resources that you've created. So let's say, again, imagine I created this on Thursday and I'm running it again on Monday. So I would probably access it from that saved link. But if I was launching it in real time, it would look essentially the same. I have all the same options. So they take me to the same screen. So the options that you have for creating a live session are that you can specify the code. So in the session that we did before, I specified the code chat. You can also leave it blank to have a random one generated. So I'll do that for now. And we also have a few other options for classrooms. One is to ask for nicknames. So this is off by default, but if you really want to know what student is submitting what data, or if you want to be able to point out data points, you can turn this on. To enable emoji selection. So that's a really fun thing to do for dot plots and scatter plots, and I can show that in a little bit. And then you can enable multiple entries from the same device. So this is great if you're not one-to-one, you know, if you're in a setting where a couple students are working together around one computer, or you have, you know, some devices that need to be shared, then you would turn this on to enable multiple entries to come from the same device. It is left off by default because most of the feedback we got was that we did not, teachers did not want students to be able to spam the data visualization and cause inaccurate data. So I'm just going to leave it blank so that it'll generate a random code for me, and I'm going to launch the live session. So now, if you guys all went to Datafly homepage again and entered in the code MSF, you would get taken to this live session that I've just created. And you're welcome to do that now. Thank you. I see users are connecting now. Yeah. And I'll show some of the teacher tools that we've got for additional support. Yeah, so as that data is coming in, I just want to highlight some of these tools. We have a marker tool. So anytime you want to kind of mark up your data, so maybe you've got, you know, a correlation and you want to highlight kind of the area where that correlation is, we've got that marker tool so that you can mark it up. Students also have access to the marker on their own device. You can do all of those same changes that you could customize the visualization. You can still do those after the fact. So if you're doing a lesson on the difference between a grouped and a stacked bar chart, you can start with a grouped bar chart and then switch it to stacked in real time and talk about how the inferences that you might make from the data are different based on the different visualizations, how they communicate something different to you visually when you first look at it. So you can use the same data to look, same data visualized in a different way to look at different features like that. And then if we were in a more interesting visualization, we'd have some other tools like a line of best fit for scatter plot, like a 5-number summary for box and whisker, but we don't have those for the bar chart. You can also download the graph as an image file, download the data as a CSV if there's something else you want to do with it later, if you want to keep it, because as I mentioned, as soon as this live session is over, as soon as I close my browser, well, we give it a grace period of 20 minutes, but as soon as I close my browser, the session and the data associated with it will be gone. You will not be able to get back to it. So again, that is to avoid any issues of privacy around student data. Everything is deleted as soon as the live session ends. And one last thing that I want to highlight, if you recall, this was the page, this is the saved template page. So say I created this and I shared it out with all of my teacher friends, and they like this lesson idea, but they don't like everything about it. They can make edits to it by clicking this duplicate and edit button. So this will make a copy of the lesson. It will not edit the original in any way, but they can say, I really don't like, having the reptile option. I think I'm gonna, keep listing out like lizard and snake and do everything really specific. Or they can say, I don't want this second question. Okay, this is my new chart type and I'm happy with it, and I can save it. And you'll get a new link that is, the saved of this version of the template, and that can be shared out and, can be duplicated and edited by others. But the initial one that you create will always be the same. Okay, so that is essentially the overview of Datafly. Let me go back to my slides real quick. I've got a few kind of lesson ideas to talk through, but then I'd love to leave time for questions at the end. So these are just a few sample lessons. The first one is about favorite ice cream flavor using a dot plot. So this is really for introducing those basic statistics concepts. My son is in 3rd grade and he has done this favorite ice cream flavor activity, I think, every single year of school. But it's great because students can answer it. They can answer questions like which one has the most, how many more, how many fewer. And you can also you see the emoji option here. So I'll launch one of this activity real quick, just so you guys can have a chance to interact with that. So this will be a new live session where I will enable the emoji selection. And so if you guys were to join with code QWY, that's QWY, then in the upper left-hand corner, you'll see a customize my dot label. And so if you click on that, you'll see that you can change the color of your dot. You can add an emoji to it. And this is really great for engaging students, whether they're 5 or 15. They enjoy this feature, but it's helpful because you're able to see your data show up in the visualization, so you know exactly where you are. This is especially great as you're starting to do scatter plots and things that are more complex, but you can see how every individual contributes to the picture of the data as a whole and find your own data point on there. Plus they're really cute and fun. So it's a great feature to enable, I think, when possible. Real quick, because we've got this visualization type, I can also toggle between other visualization types that are available. So I may have started collecting data as a dot plot, but I can switch it to a bar chart or a pie chart in real time. So again, that ability to kind of toggle between the chart types or the visualization styles in real time, if that meets your instructional goal of talking about different ways to visualize the same data. The next lesson idea, I talked through this one briefly, but it's, understanding, doing a scatter plot for height and shoe size. This one is really great for students because it tends to build a correlation. So you get to have that conversation about why might these things be correlated? What does it tell us? It's also great for identifying outliers. So you might, see that really tall kid who stands out when we're standing in line, his data point also stands out. And so you can describe how that, is an outlier. We also, almost always, it has happened several times. We get a student who figures out their height in inches incorrectly and does the math wrong. So we get somebody who's 5'2" and they enter in that they're 52 inches, and suddenly they're at the bottom of the visualization. And we have to talk about how sometimes outliers are valid and sometimes they're invalid. It's a data entry error. And how do we know? So lots of real life data concepts coming into play there. Let's see, another great lesson activity is involving students in creating the poll. So tasking students with, let's describe how much sleep our class gets. Let's build, some statistical questions around, or strategies for answering the statistical question of how much sleep does our class get. So maybe breaking students up into teams and having them think through, like, do we want to have everybody create a sleep log for a week? Do we just want to ask, how much sleep did you get last night? Do you want to take the average of the week, or generally based on your bedtime and wake time, how much sleep do you think you're getting? And so having students think through those questions, formulate those statistical questions, and then figure out how they want to visualize it. Does the visualization tell you something different if you look at it as a histogram or as a box plot? And when you do this in class, you can collect the data from the students and in real time toggle between, the histogram and the box plot and ask them, what types of strategies would you use to answer this depending on how it's visualized? Would you, when you're looking at the box plot, would you say, most students get between 6 and 7 hours of sleep? Or would you say that, everybody in our class gets between 5 and 10 hours of sleep, or the average is this amount of sleep? So how would you, interpret and communicate your findings to answer the statistical question? So this one's fun to just leave up to students and see where they go, because it really teaches them a lot about how data is thought through and communicated. Another really fun activity that I would definitely have you do if we had time, but is, but bringing in the science. So this one is having students calculate their resting heart rate, then do jumping jacks or something for a minute, and then calculate their heart rate after exercise. So on the math side, you're looking at, a comparison of distributions between populations, but from the science perspective too, you're also talking about, how do we interpret this data to make an inference about, or a causal claim about, some kind of phenomena, and introducing that idea of drawing conclusions from data. Another example that kind of crosses disciplines brings in the social sciences. So this is another good question, again, to get students thinking about how when we're creating polls or communicating data that's collected in the social sciences, how we really need to be critical thinkers about, how that data was collected. We might read a story in the news that says, 80% of people hate pickles, but what question did you ask them to identify if they hate pickles? Did you ask them, do you hate pickles? Or did you say, given a choice between pickles and chocolate, what would you choose? So this activity is asking students to think about what beverages are their favorite, and which beverages they drink most frequently. And so, this is data from a real example where we have done this activity where, we have students, what are your favorite and what are the most frequent? And obviously, there's a big shift towards water for the most frequent drinks. And, as part of the conversation with students, we asked, if you were stocking a drink machine based on this data, which of these questions would be better? And we, a lot of students thought that, the frequent drinks was the best option, but we also had a student raise her hand and say, no, neither of these are good. You should ask, what drinks would you want to pay for? Because I might drink water the most often, but I'm not going to pay for that out of a vending machine. And so it got them really, thinking critical about the context that goes into data, which is so important in getting students really reasoning about, the purpose of statistics. It is to tell us something about something that's going on in the world. It's not just numbers in a vacuum. So the context is really important. And so bringing out their ability to reason about the context because they're at the heart of it is really one of the features of Datafly that I think is particularly compelling. So with that overview, I'd like to highlight a few resources that are available if you want to dig deep and keep learning more. The first is our resource page. So that link is there, but if you were to look, this is where you can find information about, there's the video that I mentioned, information about the features, some FAQs, and some additional resources, like there is a tutorial video that you could watch or share with colleagues if you want to have a refresher on how to use Datafly. We also have some lessons and templates that are available. So these are just some of those shared links. They'll open up the saved templates just like anything else. So there's a demo template for each visualization type. This is great for kind of just looking through the the different visualizations, playing around with it without having to build something, and getting a sense of more different kinds of activities that you could do. You'll see a lot of the ones that I talked about today, like the box plot for heart rate. So you can launch those and play around with them and explore. The other, there's the link to the app, of course, but you've had that in the chat. And then I also want to highlight an initiative that we're doing on Twitter. It's called our 50 Flights with SAS Datafly. So every week on Thursdays, so we should have gotten a new one today. Oh, there it is. Every week we're tweeting out a lesson that uses SAS Datafly, really just trying to cover a variety of visualization types and content areas, just to get teachers inspired and hopefully share what they're seeing. So here's another one down here for science teachers doing genetics. So if you want to follow at SAS Educator, that's where we'll be posting our new, we're calling them flights. Everyone is a flight. Our new flights once a week, and we'll be doing that for an entire year. We launched flight 9 today, so there's still quite a bit of time where we'll still be putting those out there. So, in summary, Datafly is designed for K-12 classrooms. It's a free tool. It is designed for real-time visualization. So it's not designed to be the end-all be-all tool. Our goal is really to provide something in this space that we thought was missing. And because we're a philanthropic organization, we're able to just put out there what we think is missing and not worry about sales or getting as many users as possible. We really just want this to be helpful for educators and meet a need. And so we are super excited to have you guys try it and to get feedback. So if there's features that are missing, visualization types that need to be added, things like that, we are constantly evaluating our product roadmap and prioritizing those features. So we would love to hear from you and really build it out to make it as useful for your classrooms as possible. And so this is my contact information. You can reach out to me with any questions about this presentation, or if you start playing around with it and you've got some feedback for me, I would love to hear from you. And I really appreciate your time and attention during this demo, and I would love to answer any questions or go through things in more detail in the remaining time, as would be helpful for y'all.
So Jennifer, thank you very, very much for the presentation. I also wanted to mention that Jennifer was the project manager who led the team that developed Data SASFly. So this is just a wonderful product. And I'd like to open it up. If anyone has questions, you can unmute yourself and ask Jennifer.
I have one. I'm Shipper Clausen. As a tangent to what your stated purpose is for the product, I was thinking about using this for kind of like a live student feedback, kind of like we use clickers for or something. Like I'm asking a question and I quickly type it in and get the response. Do you see it being fit for that? Or is it more towards these lessons where you have kind of a structured plan of a case study you're going to talk about?
So I would say it can be used that way for sure. And we've heard lots of people say that that's how they want to use it. And you saw me use it, as a poll to kick this off just to understand the demographic of who I'm talking to. I will just say that it wasn't designed for that purpose. You can definitely use it that way. But, if
Right.
there might be, some tools that are designed for that might meet your needs better, but this is free. And so if it works for you to use it that way, that's fine.
Great. Thank you.
That being said, I also think it's a great way to just casually have students being used to seeing data visualizations. So the more data that they get used to seeing, I think that's not a bad thing. All right, so if that's it for questions, I'll see if anybody else has anything else they want to ask or type in the chat. But we can end a bit early.
I have one question, Jennifer. Just based on the feedback that you're able to get from people that access this product, do you see that there's a certain grade level that tends to be using this product, or can you actually gather that information? Is it being used more at the lower grades, middle grades, high school level?
So I don't have any data on who is using it. I will say that that the groups of educators that seem most excited about it are middle through high school, and especially high school teachers, in math, but definitely cross-discipline. Hearing a lot of feedback that this is a great bell ringer activity, so they can have one of the join this code up as students walk in, they quickly enter it, and then when the bell rings, they're ready to start talking about a data visualization right off. And even if it's only 5 minutes, it gets students into a practice of thinking about data, answering data-driven questions, or making data-based arguments. So that's one strategy that we've heard quite often.
And I think it's important to realize you can save the data that you've collected during your session, and then you can use other software if you wanted to then try to analyze that data in further depth than maybe what Data Sasfly can do.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, so feel free to download the data, use other tools. That's what that feature is there for. Again, one of the nice things about just being a philanthropic effort is we're not threatened if you want to use Google Sheets instead. So more than 2 variables. I would be curious to hear, feedback on how you would want that feature to work. Right now, the idea is that, as you saw, you start with one visualization, and then the poll questions build that. So it's not, the other way around where we say we've got, 5 different variables and we're going to visualize these 2. That was primarily designed for simplicity purposes. But if that is something that we get a lot of feedback of interest in, we might revisit it. We really have not gotten that question or that desire very often.
I was just asking that because there's now a new emphasis on trying to do develop multivariable thinking. So even like on the scatter plot that you have set up for 2, if there was a way to add a third variable that might color code the dots, you know, or just something that would allow it to be used in that space as well, I think would be something that would support that other goal of also developing kind of multivariable thinking. That would be more at the high school, you know, probably high school level, but just if you're still working on developing things, even something simple like that, you know,
Yeah.
would be.
Yeah, I think that's a really great point, and definitely something that we can think about. In the meantime, if that's something that you're working on, you know, say you're doing this scatter plot of height and shoe size, you could consider saying, I'd like the boys to put a blue dot and the girls a pink dot, or you could not make it gender stereotyped, but you could have them use the color your dot as that third variable, and you know, get around it for now. But I'll keep that that suggestion in mind.
Jen, there's another question in the chat, whether the application gives summary statistics.
Yes. So if you've got a histogram or box and whisker plot, then you can generate summary statistics. I can show, well, let's see. If we did maybe length of your morning commute. If you guys want to join this, those of you who are still here, MJK, I can show you what those statistics look like. I wonder how many people have morning commutes now that are 0 in remote world. Excuse me. All right, so yeah, here's the option here for generating those statistics. So we've got mean, median, mode, quartiles, and your interquartile range. And if you had a box and whisker plot, for example, where you were comparing across populations, you would get this as a table with the headers. So if you were doing the before and after exercise, you would have a header of before exercise and after exercise, so you could compare, say, the medians or the ranges. And the scatter plot has a line of best fit as an option in that one as well. Yeah, max and min on this might be nice to see if there's any zeros. That's great feedback. And I guess I can also show here it is toggled, so I can toggle it to a box and whisker plot. So you can see, again, we've got some other features where I can flip the chart and things like that. But now when I'm on the box and whisker plot, I can hover to get some of those data points, but you're absolutely right. Those should be included in the table as well. So I will add that to our roadmap.
Is there a reason the standard deviation is omitted?
No, there's not a specific reason. These were the kind of summary statistics that were mentioned to us as being most important, but that's something that's easy to calculate and add, especially for going in and adding min and max as well.
And I wonder if maybe the MAD could also be added, since that's promoted at the middle school, early high school level. The mean absolute deviation.
Okay. Yeah, great point for the AP stats. All right, well, I really appreciate y'all's time. I'm happy to hang out here a little bit longer if anybody has an advanced mode. That's that definitely makes sense for all of these additional values. But if anyone has any questions or wants to see something else, I'm happy to stay on a little bit longer.
Thank you, Jennifer. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. And you'll be getting a notice in the next few weeks about our next teacher chat.